Hi, this is Mrs. Vrobel. There was a request from somebody about how do you draw Lewis structures when you have four elements around the central atom. So the first thing I would do is I would look at the different valence electrons for each of them, and I'm going to draw an example here of carbon tetrabromine. So I'm first going to look at carbon, and notice that carbon is in the group that has four valence electrons. So I'm essentially going to draw the four valence electrons around it. And then bromine is in the group that has seven valence electrons. So I want to draw a Lewis structure with seven valence electrons. Now when you're doing covalent compounds, you want to take the one that has the least number of valence electrons and put that in the middle. So I'm going to make carbon the central atom, and I'm going to put bromine around carbon, and I have four of them. Now please remember, the goal is to have 8 valence electrons. So we want to make sure that both carbon and bromine have 8 valence electrons. So I'm going to show the fact that they're sharing 2 electrons each to represent the covalent bond. So carbon is still in the middle, and bromine is surrounding it. And notice that bromine has 3 sets of valence electrons that are not part of that covalent bond. Okay, so that's how I would draw carbon tetrabromine. All right, let's try another one. So we've got nitrogen, and our covalent bond is going to be with chlorine. So we're going to say nitrogen trichloride. Now once again, I would look and see what is the valence electrons with nitrogen. And if I look where nitrogen is, I have actually 5 valence electrons with nitrogen. And chlorine, when I look at chlorine, it has 7 valence electrons. So I want to draw 7 valence electrons. Now, I don't want to put chlorine in the middle. I want to put nitrogen in the middle, because nitrogen has it's 2 less valence electrons than chlorine. And obviously I'm going to draw 3 chlorine atoms around nitrogen. And I want to show the fact that chlorine and nitrogen are sharing two electrons each. So how I would draw this is I'm going to have 3 covalent bonds. And just to double check, if you draw a circle around chlorine, notice that chlorine has 8 valence electrons. So it has 3 pairs of electrons that are not being shared, and it has 1 pair of electrons that are being shared. If you draw a circle around nitrogen, notice that nitrogen has 3 covalent bonds, so it has 6 valence electrons, plus it has 1 lone pair of electrons that it's not being shared. And if we go back up to carbon tetrabromine, or bromide I should say, notice that bromine has 3 sets of valence electrons that are not part of the covalent bond, plus 2 shared electrons. And if you look at carbon, carbon has 4 covalent bonds, and each covalent bond has 2 valence electrons that are being shared. Okay, so if you have any other questions, feel free to contact me via chat or discussion board.